I was buttoning my best shirt looking forward to Sunday dinner at my daughter Jennifer's house. My phone buzzed with a text from my old friend and lawyer Walter Hutchinson. "Call me immediately." When I called, Walter's voice was grave. "Don't go to that dinner. I just discovered something about Jennifer that you need to know. She's been meeting with a psychiatrist named Dr. Brennan, and it's not for therapy. Can you come to my office right now? And Calhoun, bring your recording device." The drive to Walter's office felt longer than usual. My hands gripped the steering wheel as questions raced through my mind. Walter had been my lawyer for 30 years since my days as a federal prosecutor. He wouldn't have called me away from family dinner unless something serious had happened. I found him in his office surrounded by documents, his usually neat desk covered in papers and manila folders. The Sunday afternoon sun cast long shadows across the room and Walter's face looked drawn with concern. "Sit down, Calhoun," he said, gesturing to the leather chair across from his desk. "What I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear." I settled into the chair, my 68-year-old knees protesting slightly. "Just tell me straight, Walter. Is Jennifer in some kind of trouble?" Walter pulled out a folder and placed it between us. "I discovered this by accident while handling the Stevenson divorce case. We subpoenaed records from a psychiatrist's office, Dr. Brennan, looking for evidence related to my client. Your daughter's name appeared in the appointment logs." My stomach tightened. "Jennifer's seeing a psychiatrist. She never mentioned any problems." "That's because she's not the patient, Calhoun. You are. Or rather, she's been paying Dr. Brennan to create false medical records showing that you are." The words didn't make sense at first. I stared at Walter, waiting for clarification. He opened the folder and spread out several documents. "These are bank records showing Jennifer has paid Dr. Brennan $50,000 over the past 6 months. Here are emails between them discussing how to document your supposed cognitive decline. This one mentions staging incidents to support a diagnosis of dementia and Alzheimer's disease." My hands shook as I picked up one of the emails. Jennifer's familiar email address stared back at me. The message was clinical calculating. "Dr. Brennan, we need more documented incidents before filing. The dinner this Sunday will be perfect. I'll make sure other family members are present as witnesses." "The dinner tonight," I whispered. "She was planning something." Walter nodded grimly. "According to these emails, she was going to drug your coffee and stage what would appear to be a mental breakdown. She's already prepared witness statements from people who haven't even seen the incident yet." I set down the paper, my prosecutorial instincts kicking in despite the personal pain. "There's more, isn't there?" "I'm afraid so." Walter pulled out another set of documents. "This is a draft guardianship petition. She's planning to have you declared mentally incompetent. And this..." He hesitated before sliding another paper across the desk. "This is a real estate contract. Jennifer purchased a $3.2 million house last month using a power of attorney document with your forged signature." The room spun slightly. Not from any medical condition, but from the sheer shock of betrayal. My daughter, the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike who'd cried on my shoulder when her mother died 2 years ago, had been orchestrating my destruction. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Based on these records, she started planning about 8 months ago, but the active implementation began 6 months back. Calhoun, I need to ask you something. Have you noticed anything strange? Things going missing? Confusion about appointments?" Suddenly, small incidents from recent months clicked into place. My reading glasses appearing in odd locations. Jennifer mentioning conversations we'd supposedly had that I couldn't recall. The time she'd told her brother Thomas that I'd forgotten his birthday when I knew I'd called him. "She's been gaslighting me," I said, the legal term coming automatically. "Creating a false narrative of mental decline." Walter leaned back in his chair. "Your net worth is approximately $8 million, correct, built from your years as a federal prosecutor and smart investments." I nodded. "Plus the life insurance payout from Margaret's death in the house. That's what she's after. Every bit of it." Walter's expression darkened. "There's something else. Your financial advisor, Douglas Sterling. He's been corresponding with Jennifer. Look at these investment transfers." The papers showed my conservative bond portfolio being liquidated and moved into high-risk ventures. Companies I'd never heard of, all with Jennifer listed as secondary beneficiary. "Douglas has been my advisor for 15 years. I said, disbelief coloring my voice. "Money corrupts, old friend. Jennifer promised him a cut once she gains control of your assets." I stood and walked to the window looking out at the quiet Sunday streets. Families were probably gathering for dinner, children playing in yards, normal life continuing while my world crumbled. "What about Marcus?" I asked, referring to Jennifer's husband. "Is he involved?" Walter shuffled through more papers. "From what I can tell, he's unaware. These emails mention keeping him in the dark until everything is finalized. She's promised him they'll be wealthy soon, but hasn't shared the details. And Dr. Brennan tell me about him. That's where it gets interesting." I had my investigator do a quick background check. Dr. Brennan has only been in the state for a year. Before that, he practiced in Nevada until some irregularities caused him to relocate quickly. I turned from the window. "What kind of irregularities?" "The kind that involve elderly patients suddenly being declared incompetent and their estates disappearing. He's very good at covering his tracks, but the pattern is there if you know where to look." The prosecutor in me was building a case even as the father in me died a little with each revelation. "She found him, specifically for this purpose." "It appears so. Calhoun, we need to act fast. If tonight's dinner was meant to be a big production, she'll accelerate her timeline once you don't show up." I sat back down, my mind shifting into the analytical mode that had served me well in countless federal cases. "No, I'm going to let her think she's winning." Walter's eyebrows rose. "You want to play along? I spent 40 years putting criminals away by letting them think they were smarter than everyone else. Jennifer might be my daughter, but right now she's a perpetrator." I pulled out my phone. "I'm going to call her and apologize for missing dinner. Tell her I got confused about the date." "Calhoun, are you sure this is your daughter we're talking about?" "No, Walter. My daughter died somewhere in the last 8 months. This is someone who looks like her but has chosen greed over family." I began dialing. "Can you get me copies of everything, and I'll need you to do a few things quietly." As the phone rang, I prepared to give the performance of my lifetime. Jennifer answered on the third ring, her voice sweet with false concern. "Dad, where are you? Everyone's here waiting for dinner." "Oh, Jennifer, I'm so sorry," I said, adding a slight tremor to my voice. "I got my days mixed up. I thought dinner was next Sunday. I'm at the park feeding the ducks." There was a pause. I could almost hear her calculating. "The park, Dad, it's getting dark. Do you need me to come get you?" No, I'm fine, just embarrassed. I've been a little foggy lately. Must be the change in seasons." "Have you been taking your medications?" "Interesting. I didn't take any medications and she knew it." "Of course, dear. The blue ones and the white ones, just like you said." Another pause. "Dad, I never... You know what? Why don't we talk about this later? Can you get home safely?" "I'll call a cab. My car's been making strange noises anyway." "Okay, I love you, Dad. We'll reschedule dinner soon." "Love you too, sweetheart." I hung up and looked at Walter. "The blue ones and the white ones." She didn't correct me. She's already laying groundwork for a medication confusion story. Walter shook his head. "What's your plan?" "First, I need a private investigator. The best you know. Someone with FBI experience would be ideal. Second, I need you to quietly create new accounts at different banks and start moving my assets, not all at once, but steadily. Third, draw up a new will, leaving everything to charity. Make it ironclad. And Jennifer, I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. A confused old man who's losing his grip on reality, right up until the moment I show her and everyone else exactly how sharp my mind really is." Walter smiled for the first time since I'd arrived. "The prosecutor returns. What else do you need?" "Cameras for my house, discreet ones, and a way to record every interaction from now on." I stood feeling more energized than I had in months. "She wants to play games with an old federal prosecutor. Let's show her why I never lost a case." As I left Walter's office, I thought about the photo on my desk at home, Jennifer, at her law school graduation, beaming with pride as I stood beside her. I'd been so proud that day, thinking she'd follow in my footsteps seeking justice. Instead, she'd chosen injustice, and now I would have to be the one to stop her. That evening, I sat in my study examining every interaction with Jennifer from the past 6 months with new eyes. The legal pad in front of me filled with notes as memories took on sinister new meanings. The time she'd insisted on organizing my pills into a weekly container, though I only took vitamins. Her sudden interest in my daily routine. The way she'd started dropping by unexpectedly, always with an excuse about being concerned. My phone rang. Thomas, my son. "Dad, Jennifer just called." She said you seemed confused today. Are you all right? I weighed my options carefully. Thomas was a good man and engineer with a methodical mind, but Jennifer had been working on him too. I needed to maintain my cover. I'm fine, son. Just got my days mixed up. You know how it is when you're retired. Every day feels like Saturday. Maybe you should see a doctor, Dad, just to be safe. Perhaps you're right. I'll make an appointment next week. After hanging up, I made a note. Jennifer had already started spreading her narrative. By morning, half the family would have heard about my confusion. Perfect. Let her build her web of lies. Every strand would become evidence against her. The next morning, Walter called with a name. Maria Delgado, a former FBI agent who'd specialized in financial crimes before starting her own investigation firm. We met at a small cafe downtown away from familiar faces. Maria was in her 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing and silver streaking through black hair pulled back in a professional bun. She listened without interrupting as I laid out the situation, occasionally making notes in precise handwriting. I've seen this before, she said when I finished. Elder financial abuse is more common than people think. The family angle makes it particularly cruel. She closed her notebook. I'll need full access. Surveillance equipment in your home, permission to track Jennifer's movements, monitor her communications within legal bounds. This won't be cheap. Money isn't the issue. Getting evidence that will stand up in court is... She smiled slightly. Spoken like a prosecutor. We'll get along fine, Mr. Calhoun. First thing, I need to run deep background on this Dr. Brennan. Something tells me Nevada wasn't his first stop. Over the next 2 weeks, I became an actor in my own life. When Jennifer visited, I strategically forgot small things. I'd call her by her mother's name once, then catch myself with apparent confusion. I left the stove on when she was there, though. I disconnected the gas line first. Once I mentioned seeing my brother Carl, who'd been dead for 5 years. Dad, Jennifer said during one visit, her voice dripping with false concern, you just put your keys in the refrigerator. I looked at the keys in the vegetable drawer, though I'd watched her place them there through the reflection in the microwave door. Did I? How silly of me. She made a show of writing in a small notebook. I'm just keeping track, Dad, in case we need to show the doctor. That's thoughtful of you, dear. Meanwhile, Maria's investigation uncovered a gold mine. She met me at Walter's office to share her findings, spreading photos and documents across the conference table. Dr. Brennan's real name is James Fletcher. He lost his medical license in Nevada 3 years ago for insurance fraud. Before that, he was investigated in Arizona and Utah for similar schemes involving elderly patients. He's been using forged credentials here. How did Jennifer find him? I asked. Through online gambling sites. Your daughter has approximately $340,000 in gambling debts to various online platforms and bookies. Fletcher runs in those circles offering his special services to desperate people. The revelation hit hard. Gambling debts. It explains so much, yet I'd seen no signs. How long has she been gambling? Based on financial records, about 3 years. It started small online poker but escalated after your wife's death. The life insurance payout you gave her gone within 6 months. Walter whistled low. That was $200,000. Maria pulled out another photo. There's more. Jennifer and Fletcher aren't just business associates. They've been having an affair for 8 months. These are from the Riverside Hotel last Tuesday when she was supposedly at a legal conference. The photos showed Jennifer and a man in his 40s entering a hotel room together. The timestamp showed they'd stayed 4 hours. What about Marcus? I asked. Her husband doesn't know. He started asking questions. I intercepted this text exchange. Maria showed me printed messages between Jennifer and her best friend. Jennifer complained about Marcus being suspicious and promised everything would be worth it once she had her inheritance. I stood and paced to the window. Outside, life continued normally while mine revealed itself as a carefully constructed lie. Mr. Calhoun, Maria said gently, I know this is difficult. Would you like to take a break? No, I need everything. What else? Your financial advisor, Douglas Sterling, is in debt too. Bad real estate investments. Jennifer offered him 15% of your estate to help liquidate your assets gradually. He's already moved about $600,000 into accounts Jennifer can access. $600,000, I repeated. Money I'd saved for decades, carefully invested for a comfortable retirement and to leave something for my grandchildren. Walter spoke up. We've frozen what we could quietly, set up new accounts at 3 different banks. About 80% of your liquid assets are now protected. Good. What about the house surveillance? Maria smiled. Already installed and operational. Motion-activated cameras in all common areas hidden in smoke detectors and air vents. Everything uploads to a secure cloud server. She pulled out a tablet and showed me crystal-clear footage of my living room. This is from yesterday. The video showed Jennifer entering my house with her key while I was at my weekly golf game. She moved through the rooms, placing items in odd locations. My reading glasses went into the bathroom cabinet. My checkbook moved from my desk to the kitchen junk drawer. Small things designed to make me question my memory. She's methodical, Maria observed. This isn't impulsive. She's building a case piece by piece. Like a prosecutor would, I said bitterly. I taught her well. Over the following days, the cameras captured more. Jennifer going through my financial papers, taking photos of my medical records. Once she spent an hour in my study, and we later discovered she'd installed a keystroke logger on my computer. We left it in place, Maria explained. But we're feeding it false information. Let her think she's monitoring your emails. The most damning evidence came when Maria's surveillance caught Jennifer meeting with other family members. She recorded Jennifer at lunch with my sister Dorothy, spinning tales of my declining mental state. I found him talking to Mom's photo for 2 hours yesterday, Jennifer lied smoothly. He thought she was really there, and last week he tried to drive to his old office. He retired 15 years ago, Aunt Dorothy. Dorothy's face showed concern. Maybe we should intervene. I'm working on that. Dr. Brennan, a friend from law school who became a psychiatrist, has been advising me. He says we might need to consider guardianship for Dad's safety. The manipulation was masterful. Every lie contained just enough truth to be believable. I had talked to Margaret's photo as I did every morning, telling her about my day. And I had driven past my old office feeling nostalgic. But the worst revelation came when Maria discovered Jennifer had approached my grandson, Adam. The 16-year-old had been told his grandfather was becoming dangerous, that he shouldn't visit alone anymore. That's a line she shouldn't have crossed, I said, real anger finally breaking through my calculated calm. Walter placed a hand on my shoulder. We have enough to stop her now, Calhoun. Say the word, and we can file charges. No, she's planning something bigger. I can feel it. I looked at the evidence covering the table. Maria, what's her endgame? Based on communication patterns and financial movements, I'd say she's planning a major event within the next month. Something public with multiple witnesses. She needs an incident dramatic enough to justify immediate guardianship. Then we wait, and we prepare. I turned to Walter. I want you to draft documents giving you power of attorney if I'm ever declared incompetent. Make it retroactive to before Jennifer started this scheme. And contact Judge Harrison. He owes me a favor from the Delacroix case. What are you planning? Jennifer wants a public spectacle. I'll give her one, but it won't end the way she expects. That night, I sat in my study looking at family photos, Jennifer at 5 missing her front teeth, grinning at the camera. At 16 in her prom dress, rolling her eyes as I took too many pictures. At 30, holding newborn Adam, while Marcus beamed beside her. Where had I failed? What signs had I missed? My phone buzzed. A text from Adam. Grandpa, are you okay? Mom says you're sick, but you seemed fine when I saw you. Can we talk? I smiled grimly and typed back, I'm perfectly fine, Adam. And yes, we should talk soon. How about our usual fishing spot this Saturday? Let Jennifer think she was winning. Let her believe her confused old father was stumbling blindly into her trap. She'd forgotten that I'd spent 4 decades in courtrooms reading people-building cases and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The silent wolf was fully awake now, and he was hunting. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzly perfect fishing weather, according to my grandson. Adam met me at Lake Hartwell, our secret spot since he was 8. He looked nervous, constantly checking his phone as if Jennifer might appear any moment. Your mom doesn't know you're here, I said, handing him his fishing rod. She thinks I'm at soccer practice. He cast his line with practiced ease. Grandpa, what's really going on? Mom's been acting crazy, telling everyone you're losing it, but you seem exactly the same to me. I made a decision. Adam was 16, old enough to understand and perhaps old enough to help. What I'm about to tell you stays between us for now. Can you promise me that... Yeah, of course. Your mother is trying to have me declared mentally incompetent so she can take control of my money. She's been creating false evidence and lying to the family. Adam's face went pale. What? Why would she do that? Gambling debts. She owes a lot of money to dangerous people. The boy was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then, the weird stuff makes sense now. She had me write a statement about you forgetting to pick me up from school last month. But you never forgot. She told me she forgot to tell you. She made you lie. She said it was for insurance purposes. Something about documentation. His voice cracked slightly. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I didn't know. It's not your fault, son. Your mother's in trouble, and instead of asking for help, she chose a dark path. I reeled in my line and cast again. I need you to do something for me. Keep acting normal around her. Don't let her know we talked. Can you do that? Like going undercover. Exactly like that. We fished in companionable silence for a while before Adam spoke again. Is that why she's been meeting with that creepy doctor, Dr. Brennan? My hand stilled on the reel. You've met him. He came to the house a few times. Mom introduced him as a colleague, but... Adam shuddered. He gives me the creeps. The way he looks at our house like he's calculating its value. Trust your instincts, Adam. They're serving you well. As we packed up our gear, Adam surprised me with a fierce hug. I won't let her hurt you, Grandpa. We'll protect each other, I promised. The next weeks passed in a blur of careful performance. Jennifer grew bolder, her confidence inflating with each perceived success. She brought Dr. Brennan to family gatherings, introducing him as a concerned friend. He played his part well, observing me with professional interest, occasionally jotting notes. Maria's surveillance captured everything, including a particularly damning conversation in Jennifer's car. 2 more weeks, Fletcher's voice crackled through the speaker. The intervention is scheduled for the 14th. Your Aunt Dorothy agreed to host. Perfect, Jennifer replied. Everyone will be there for her birthday party. Dad won't suspect anything. You've got the witnesses lined up. 12 family members who've seen his confusion firsthand, plus Douglas will testify about his erratic financial decisions. With your medical opinion, it's airtight. And after we file for emergency guardianship, I've already got a buyer for the house. Cash offer, quick close. We'll have him in Mountain View memory care by month's end. Fletcher laughed. Poor old man won't know what hit him. He did it to himself, Jennifer said coldly. Sitting on $8 million while I'm drowning in debt. My mother would have helped me, but he always held the purse strings. The callousness in her voice chilled me. This wasn't desperation talking, it was entitlement mixed with greed. Maria met with Walter and me to plan our counter-strategy. She's invited extended family from across the country, cousins you haven't seen in years. She wants maximum witnesses for your breakdown. Then we give them a show they'll never forget, I said. Walter, how are the federal prosecutors? I recommended. Agent Harrison from the FBI Financial Crimes Division is fully briefed. They've been building a parallel case based on our evidence. Mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy elder, abuse crossing state lines. They're particularly interested in Fletcher's interstate operations. Good. Maria, what about Fletcher's other victims? I've located 6 families in 3 states, all similar patterns. Elderly relative suddenly declared incompetent assets, liquidated family member working with Fletcher walks away rich. 2 of the victims died in care facilities within a year. Died! The word came out sharp. Suspicious circumstances both times, but nothing provable. Yet. I felt the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. This wasn't just about me anymore. The week before Dorothy's party, Jennifer accelerated her gaslighting campaign. She canceled my appointments and told people I'd forgotten them. She hired a locksmith to change my locks, then acted surprised when I couldn't get into my own home, claiming I'd requested it for safety. Dad, you said you were worried about break-ins? She insisted, as the locksmith worked. I said no such thing. Yesterday on the phone, you were quite insistent. She turned to the locksmith. He's been having memory issues. It's so hard to watch your parent decline. The locksmith gave me a sympathetic look. Another witness for her collection. Later that evening, the cameras caught her entering with the new key, this time with Marcus. I don't like this, Jen, Marcus said, looking uncomfortable in my living room. Deceiving your father feels wrong. We've been over this. Once we have control of his assets, we can ensure he gets the best care. Real professionals, not that cheap place my cousin used for her mother. But he seems fine to me. Jennifer's voice turned sharp. That's because you don't see what I see. The confusion, the memory lapses. Last week he called me Margaret twice. He's living in the past, Marcus, we're helping him. And the money will ensure our son's future. Adam deserves better than community college and student loans. Don't you want him to have opportunities? Marcus nodded slowly, another good man corrupted by proximity to greed. The night before Dorothy's party, I made final preparations. New will signed and witnessed. Power of attorney documents filed. FBI agents briefed and ready. A real psychiatrist, Dr. Sarah Morrison, had been evaluating me for 6 weeks at Walter's arrangement, documenting my complete mental competence. I stood in my study looking at the chessboard I'd been playing against myself. The white king stood surrounded but not checkmated. Tomorrow the board would flip. My phone rang. Dorothy. Calhoun. I'm worried about tomorrow. Jennifer says you might become agitated in crowds now. Should we keep the party small? I'll be fine, Dorothy. Looking forward to your birthday celebration. Jennifer suggested, maybe you shouldn't drive yourself. She could pick you up. That's thoughtful, but I'll manage. After hanging up, I realized Jennifer's final play. She wanted me arriving with her already primed for confusion. She'd probably slip something into my coffee on the drive, just enough to make me foggy for her grand performance. I called Walter. Small change of plans. I'll need you to pick me up tomorrow. Tell Jennifer I insisted on driving myself and you couldn't talk me out of it. Understood. Calhoun, are you ready for this? Tomorrow, everything changes. I've been ready since the moment I learned my daughter values money over family. Tomorrow she learns that justice isn't just a word I used to prosecute, it's a principle I live by. That night, I walked through my house one last time, seeing it as it truly was, rather than through Jennifer's manipulations. Tomorrow she would try to steal it all. My home, my dignity, my freedom, my legacy. Instead, she would discover what 40 years of prosecuting criminals had taught me: the trap that looks like victory is the most dangerous one of all. Dorothy's birthday party was set for 2 o'clock on a brilliant Sunday afternoon. Her house buzzed with activity as family members arrived from across the country. I watched from Walter's car as Jennifer's vehicle pulled up, her expression radiating false concern. She's looking for you, Walter observed. Probably wondering why you're not confused and lost somewhere. Let her wonder. Park around the corner. I want to enter on my own terms. Inside Dorothy's house, 20 relatives mingled in the living room. Cousins I hadn't seen since Margaret's funeral, their children now grown with families of their own. Jennifer held court near the fireplace, Dr. Brennan at her side, while a woman in scrubs hovered near the kitchen. That would be the psychiatric nurse, Walter murmured, ready to sedate the confused old man if necessary. I straightened my best suit jacket. Time to give them their show. We entered through the front door, me walking with deliberate care, adding a slight hesitation to my step. Conversation stopped as heads turned our way. Dad! Jennifer rushed over, her face a mask of daughterly concern. I was so worried. Why didn't you let me pick you up? Wanted to drive myself, I said, letting my voice waver slightly. Still can drive just fine. Of course you can. She took my arm, her grip firmer than necessary. Come sit down. You remember Dr. Brennan? He's here for Dorothy's party too. The good doctor approached with a practiced smile. Sir, Mr. Calhoun, how are you feeling today? Fine, fine. Dorothy's birthday, right? Where is she? I'm right here, Calhoun, my sister said, watching me with worried eyes. Jennifer had done her work well. The party proceeded with forced normalcy. Cake was served, presents open, while Jennifer orchestrated small incidents. She asked me about people who weren't there, referencing conversations that hadn't happened. When I went to the bathroom, she quickly told others I'd gotten lost in the hallway. He was trying doors randomly, she stage whispered to cousin Robert. It's getting worse. Thomas arrived late with his family, giving me a careful hug. Hey, Dad, how are you holding up? Good to see you, Carl, I said, deliberately using my deceased brother's name. Thomas's face fell. Dad, I'm Thomas, your son. Of course. Sorry, son. Everyone looks like someone else today. From the corner of my eye, I saw Jennifer exchange significant looks with Dr. Brennan. Time for the main event. Everyone, Jennifer called out, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. I'm sorry to do this at Aunt Dorothy's party, but we can't wait any longer. We need to talk about Dad. The room fell silent. Family members found seats, forming an impromptu tribunal with me at the center. Jennifer stood, hands clasped as if in prayer. I know this is hard, but we all love Dad and want what's best for him. Over the past months, many of you have noticed changes. The confusion, the memory lapses, the dangerous decisions. What dangerous decisions? Cousin Marie asked. Douglas Sterling stepped forward from where he'd been lurking by the bookshelf. I'm Calhoun's financial advisor. Recently, he's been making extremely risky investments liquidating stable assets for volatile schemes. Last week, he tried to invest his entire portfolio in a company that doesn't exist. Murmurs rippled through the room. I let my face show confusion and indignation. That's not true, I protested weakly. Dad, you called me at 3 a.m. last week, Jennifer continued, tears now flowing. You were in your car, lost, crying for Mom. You thought she was missing. I have the voicemail, she added, pulling out her phone. The recording that played was my voice, distressed and confused, calling for Margaret. What Jennifer didn't mention was that it was spliced together from multiple conversations expertly edited. More family members shared their concerns. Each story carefully planted, each incident staged or exaggerated. Jennifer was building her case like a prosecutor, brick by damning brick. This is ridiculous, Thomas suddenly spoke up. Dad seems fine to me. Maybe a little forgetful, but he's almost 70. We all forget things. Denial won't help him, Dr. Brennan interjected smoothly. As a psychiatrist specializing in geriatric care, I've been observing Mr. Calhoun. The signs of advancing dementia are clear. Without intervention, he's a danger to himself and others. What kind of intervention? Dorothy asked. Jennifer pulled out a folder. I've prepared guardianship papers. If Dad agrees to sign them voluntarily, we can avoid the courts. He'll be well cared for, I promise. Mountain View Memory Care has an excellent reputation. And his assets, Thomas asked pointedly. Would be managed responsibly for his care, Jennifer replied. Douglas and I would ensure everything is handled properly. The room erupted in discussion. Some family members supported Jennifer, others showed skepticism. In the chaos, young Adam stood up from where he'd been sitting with his father. This is wrong, he said, voice cracking but determined. Grandpa's not sick, Mom's lying. Jennifer's face flushed. Adam, sit down. You don't understand. I understand plenty. You made me lie about him forgetting to pick me up. You've been planning this for months. I heard you talking to Dr. Brennan about the money. That's enough, Jennifer snapped, her mask slipping. Marcus, control your son. Marcus looked uncomfortable but stood. Adam, let's step outside. No, Adam pulled out his phone. I recorded you, Mom, last week laughing about how Grandpa would never see it coming. Before he could play it, Jennifer lunged for the phone. In the scuffle, she knocked over Dorothy's coffee table, sending glass figurines crashing to the floor. You ungrateful little brat, she screamed, completely losing her composure. After everything I've done for you. The room froze. This wasn't the concerned daughter anymore, but someone desperate and dangerous. Dr. Brennan stepped forward with official-looking documents and a prepared syringe. Mr. Calhoun needs immediate evaluation. As a medical professional, I'm authorized to perform an emergency psychiatric hold. Nurse Hendricks. The woman in scrubs moved toward me. Several family members stood as if to intervene, unsure what was happening. Who are all these people in my house? I asked, playing my final confused card. Dorothy, why are strangers in your home? Jennifer's eyes gleamed with triumph as the nurse approached with restraints. Dr. Brennan prepared his syringe with practiced efficiency. It's for your own good, Dad, Jennifer said, composure returning. You'll thank me later. The trap was sprung, but not the one they expected. Just as the nurse reached for my arm, the front door burst open. FBI agent Harrison entered with 2 other agents, followed by the real Dr. Sarah Morrison and Walter. Nobody move, Agent Harrison commanded, his badge gleaming. James Fletcher, also known as Dr. Brennan, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and practicing medicine without a license. The syringe fell from Fletcher's hand as his face went white. This is a mistake. I'm a licensed psychiatrist. In what state? I asked, my confusion vanishing like morning mist. I stood straighter, 40 years of courtroom authority flooding back. Certainly not Nevada, where you lost your license, not Arizona or Utah either. The room erupted in gasps and confused voices. Jennifer stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Hello, Jennifer. I continued, my voice now sharp and clear. Surprised to see your confused old father suddenly coherent. You should have remembered that I spent 4 decades reading people like you. Dad, Thomas breathed, you're not senile, suffering from dementia. No son. What I am is thoroughly disappointed and completely prepared. I turned to the assembled family. For the past 4 months, Jennifer has been systematically trying to have me declared incompetent. Why greed, pure and simple? Walter stepped forward with a laptop. Everything we're about to show you has been documented and verified by law enforcement. The screen lit up with surveillance footage of Jennifer placing my keys in the freezer, then moving my belongings, doctoring my coffee. The room watched in stunned silence. "That's just the beginning," I said. "Agent Harrison." The FBI agent cleared his throat. "Jennifer Calhoun has been under federal investigation for conspiracy to commit elder abuse, mail fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. She's stolen approximately $400,000 from her father already through forged documents." "400,000, Dorothy gasped. "She has gambling debts exceeding $340,000, I continued. "Instead of asking for help, she decided to steal my entire estate. $8 million built over a lifetime of honest work." Dr. Morrison stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Sarah Morrison, Chief of Psychiatry at Methodist Hospital. I've been evaluating Mr. Calhoun for 6 weeks. He's in excellent mental health. Every supposed incident of confusion was either staged or fabricated." Jennifer finally found her voice. "This is entrapment. You set me up." "No," I said coldly. "You set yourself up the moment you decided your father was nothing more than a bank account to pillage. Would you like to hear your own words?" Walter clicked play on another file. Jennifer's voice filled the room. "The old fool won't know what hit him. By the time we're done, I'll have everything and he'll be drooling in some cut-rate facility." Several family members recoiled. Marcus sank into a chair, head in his hands. "There's more," Agent Harrison announced. "Mr. Fletcher here has done this before. 6 elderly victims across 3 states. 2 died under suspicious circumstances after their estates were liquidated." "You were going to kill me," I asked Jennifer directly. "Once you had the money?" "No," she protested. "I would never. I just wanted my money." "Say it, Jennifer. You wanted my money more than you wanted your father's well-being." Maria entered with a box of documents. "These are the real financial records. Jennifer's accomplice Douglas Sterling has been arrested and is cooperating fully. He's detailed how they plan to liquidate everything within 6 months of gaining guardianship." Jennifer's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the couch, the same one where she'd been holding court minutes ago. "I needed help. The debts they threatened to hurt Adam if I didn't pay. So instead of coming to me, your father who loved you, who would have helped you, you chose to destroy me." My voice broke slightly, the pain finally showing through. "I buried your mother 2 years ago. I thought I'd lost the worst thing possible. I was wrong. Watching my daughter choose greed over love is worse." "Mr. Calhoun," Agent Harrison interrupted gently, "we need to proceed with the arrests." I nodded. As the agents moved toward Jennifer and Fletcher, she looked up at me with desperate eyes. "Daddy, please, I'm sorry. I'll get help for the gambling. I'll make it right." "You'll have several years in federal prison to think about making it right," I said. "Your son, however, showed more courage and integrity than you ever did. Adam," the boy stepped forward, tears streaming down his face. "Your mother's going away for a while," I told him gently, "but you always have a home with me. You and your father both if Marcus wants it." Marcus looked up stunned. "After what she did, what I let happen." "You were manipulated by someone you loved. I understand that better than anyone." I looked around the room at my family, some crying, others still processing. "We all make choices. Jennifer chose greed. The rest of us can choose forgiveness and healing." As the FBI led Jennifer and Fletcher away in handcuffs, she turned back one last time. "I loved you, Daddy. I just loved the money more." It was the first honest thing she'd said in months. Dorothy approached me slowly. "Calhoun, I'm so sorry. I believed her. We all did. She was convincing. She learned from the best after all." I managed a sad smile. "The birthday party's ruined. I'm sorry, Dorothy." My sister hugged me fiercely. "You saved yourself, and who knows how many future victims. That's the best gift you could have given me." One by one, family members approached. Apologies, tears, confusion, and relief mingled in equal measure. Thomas gripped my shoulder, unable to speak. Cousins who testified to my confusion stammered explanations. "Stop," I said firmly. Jennifer manipulated all of you. She took your love and trust and weaponized it. The blame lies with her, not with you. Walter closed his laptop. The house has been secured. New locks installed. Your assets are protected. Douglas Sterling's illegal transfers have been reversed. What happens now? Someone asked. Now, I said, looking at Adam, who stood lost between his arrested mother and devastated father, we rebuild. We heal. And we remember that family isn't about money or inheritance. It's about choosing to love each other even when it's hard. Dr. Morrison approached with her official evaluation. Mr. Calhoun, you've shown remarkable strength through this ordeal, but I'd recommend counseling. Betrayal by a child leaves deep wounds. I nodded, suddenly feeling every one of my 68 years. I'll take your recommendation, Doctor. I've spent months pretending to be broken. Now I need help dealing with what's actually broken my heart. As the room slowly emptied, family members processing what they'd witnessed, Adam approached hesitantly. Grandpa, did you mean it about me staying with you? I pulled him into a hug. Every word. Your mother lost her way, but you stood up for truth when it mattered. That took real courage. What will happen to her? She'll face justice. Maybe prison will give her time to find who she used to be before the gambling consumed her. I held him at arm's length. But that's her journey. Yours is just beginning, and I'll be here for every step. Marcus joined us, his face etched with exhaustion and shame. Mr. Calhoun, I should have seen it, should have stopped it. Love makes us blind sometimes, I replied. The question now is what you do next. I want to be better. For Adam. For myself. He straightened his shoulders. I've already called a divorce attorney. Not out of anger, but because Adam needs one parent who puts him first. We stood there, 3 generations of men damaged by one woman's greed, but not destroyed by it. Outside, police cars pulled away with their prisoners. Inside, the wreckage of a family birthday party bore witness to how quickly love could turn to betrayal. But also, how truth, however painful, could begin the healing process. The federal courthouse in downtown stood like a monument to justice, its marble steps, worn smooth by decades of people seeking truth and fairness. 3 months after the dramatic birthday party intervention, I climbed those steps once again, this time not as a prosecutor but as a witness and victim. The media had latched onto the story with voracious appetite. Daughter's betrayal, prosecutor fights back ran in newspapers across the state. The gambling addiction angle, the fake psychiatrist, the elderly victims in other states, it all combined into a perfect storm of public outrage. Inside the courtroom, I took my seat behind the prosecution table. Adam sat beside me, Marcus on his other side. We'd become an unlikely family unit in the months since Jennifer's arrest, bonding over shared betrayal and the slow work of healing. Jennifer entered in shackles, her expensive suits replaced by federal detention garb. The months inside had aged her, or perhaps it was the weight of consequences finally settling on her shoulders. She looked at our row, once her eyes lingering on Adam before turning away. Fletcher, or Dr. Brennan as she'd known him, sat at the defense table looking diminished. His confident doctor persona had crumbled, revealing the career criminal beneath. The prosecutor, Diane Hartwell, was one of my former colleagues. She'd taken the case personally, outraged that someone would target one of their own. Her opening statement was devastating in its simplicity. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about the ultimate betrayal. A daughter who saw her father not as the man who raised her, loved her and supported her, but as a bank account to be emptied. She conspired with a con artist to destroy her father's life for money. The evidence will show a calculated campaign of gaslighting, fraud, and elder abuse that would have succeeded if not for Calhoun Whitfield's 4 decades of prosecutorial instinct. Jennifer's lawyer, a public defender named Carl Brennan, no relation to the fake doctor, tried to paint her as a desperate woman driven by addiction and threats from loan sharks. It might have been sympathetic if not for the mountain of evidence showing her meticulous planning and cruel execution. The first week of testimony established the scope of Fletcher's interstate crime ring. 6 families testified via video link, elderly parents and their adult children describing how Fletcher had destroyed their lives. Martha Hensley from Utah wept as she described her father's final months in a substandard facility, all his wealth stolen, dying, believing he was a burden to his family. He wasn't confused, she said through tears. The autopsy showed he was poisoned slowly. But by then, Fletcher had disappeared with $2 million. When Douglas Sterling took the stand as a cooperating witness, the full financial conspiracy emerged. Charts showed how Jennifer had researched her father's assets down to the penny. Sterling detailed their plan to liquidate everything within 6 months, creating a complex web of offshore accounts. She said her father was old and selfish, Sterling testified. That he'd had his life and now it was her turn. When I expressed doubts, she reminded me of my debts and promised 15%. I was weak and greedy. I betrayed a client who trusted me for 20 years. But the most damaging testimony came from an unexpected source. The psychiatric nurse Helen Hendricks had made a deal for immunity. She revealed that Jennifer and Fletcher had discussed accelerating in the timeline once they had guardianship. They talked about medications that would actually cause confusion and memory loss, Hendricks testified. Dr. Fletcher said it had worked before, made the evaluations retroactively accurate, he called it. The implication was clear. They hadn't just planned to steal from me, they'd planned to actually destroy my mind to cover their tracks. When my turn came to testify, I approached the stand I'd questioned so many witnesses from over the years. The bailiff swore me in, and I faced the jury, 12 citizens tasked with delivering justice. Diane led me through the story methodically. The birthday dinner setup, Walter's discovery, the months of playing confused while building evidence. She had me identify surveillance videos, forged documents, recorded conversations. How did it feel, she asked quietly, watching your daughter plan your destruction? I was quiet for a moment, gathering thoughts. Like death, by 1,000 cuts. Each lie, each staged incident, each time she looked at me with false concern while plotting my imprisonment in a memory care facility. It wasn't just about money. She was erasing me as a person, turning me into a problem to be solved. Did you consider confronting her directly when you first learned of the plot? Every day, but I knew she'd deny it, cover her tracks, maybe accelerate her timeline. I'd spent 40 years building cases. I knew I needed irrefutable evidence, not just for law enforcement, but for my family. They needed to see the truth with their own eyes. The defense's cross-examination tried to paint me as a cold father who'd driven Jennifer to desperation by withholding support. Carl Brennan suggested I'd manipulated the situation for revenge. Isn't it true you could have helped your daughter with her debts at any time? She never asked, I replied simply. I didn't know about the gambling until after her arrest. Had she come to me, told me she was in trouble, I would have mortgaged my house to help her. Instead, she chose to steal it. You set up an elaborate trap. Cameras, private investigators, FBI involvement. That seems like more than self-defense. I met his gaze steadily. I uncovered a conspiracy that had victimized multiple families across state lines. 2 people likely died because of Fletcher's schemes. If stopping that required elaborate measures, then yes, I'm guilty of protecting myself and future victims. The jury leaned forward when Adam testified. At 16, he spoke with remarkable composure about his mother's deception, the pressure to lie, his decision to stand up for his grandfather. His testimony revealed something Jennifer's lawyer couldn't spin away. She'd corrupted her own son for greed. She used to be a good mom, Adam said quietly. But the gambling changed her. She'd be gone all night, come home angry. When Grandpa gave her money after Grandma died, I thought things would get better. Instead, she just bet bigger. Do you still love your mother? Diane asked gently. Adam's voice broke. I love who she used to be. I hope someday she'll be that person again. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Financial records, emails, surveillance footage, and recorded conversations built an overwhelming case. Fletcher's previous victims testified to patterns identical to what Jennifer had planned for me. The evidence showed not just fraud, but a conspiracy that crossed state lines and targeted society's most vulnerable. In her closing argument, Diane held up a photo of me from Jennifer's staged videos, looking confused and lost. This is what Jennifer Calhoun wanted you to believe, a confused old man who needed to be put away for his own good. The truth, she held up another photo of me at my desk reviewing evidence with Maria. A sharp, capable man who refused to be a victim. But what about those who couldn't fight back? What about Martha Hensley's father? What about the next elderly parent Fletcher would have targeted if Calhoun hadn't stopped them? This isn't just about one family's tragedy. It's about protecting every parent from children who see them as ATMs instead of human beings. The defense's closing tried one last time to generate sympathy, painting Jennifer as a victim of addiction manipulated by the experienced criminal Fletcher. But The evidence of her meticulous planning, her cruel execution, and her willingness to destroy her son's innocence had damaged any claim to sympathy. Ooh. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours. As the foreman stood to read the verdicts, I gripped Adam's hand. Jennifer stood rigid, staring straight ahead. On the count of conspiracy to commit elder abuse, we find the defendant Jennifer Marie Calhoun guilty. On the count of wire fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of mail fraud, we find the defendant guilty. The guilty verdicts continued through 18 federal counts. Fletcher received guilty verdicts on 37 counts, including his crimes in other states. Jennifer swayed but remained standing, her face a mask of shock, despite the overwhelming evidence. Judge Patricia Reeves, known for her measured approach, scheduled sentencing for the following month. As court officers led Jennifer away, she turned to look at us one last time. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Adam buried his face in Marcus's shoulder. Outside, the courthouse reporters swarmed. I'd prepared a statement knowing the public attention could help other families recognize similar schemes. Elder fraud is a hidden epidemic, I read from prepared notes. It's often perpetrated by those closest to the victims, making it harder to detect and more painful to prosecute. If this case makes one family look closer, ask questions. Protect their vulnerable members, then some good will have come from our pain. Mr. Calhoun, a reporter called out, "Do you forgive your daughter?" I paused, considering. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. Today, justice was served. Healing comes next. Back home that evening, our strange new family unit gathered around the dinner table. Adam had started cooking, finding solace in creating meals that brought us together. Marcus had thrown himself into being the father he'd neglected to be, while Jennifer spiraled into gambling. "Think she'll appeal?" Marcus asked, pushing food around his plate. Undoubtedly, but the evidence is overwhelming. The appeals court will uphold the conviction. I watched Adam carefully. "How are you holding up?" He shrugged teenager style. "It's weird. I'm glad it's over, but also, that's my mom, even after everything." "Those conflicting feelings are normal," I assured him. "You can love someone and still acknowledge they've done terrible things. The human heart is complex that way." Walter called later that evening with updates on the civil suits filed by Fletcher's other victims. With his convictions, they stood a good chance of recovering some of their losses from hidden assets the FBI had uncovered. "You did good, Calhoun," he said. "How many people would have had the strength to fight back like you did?" "I had advantages most elderly victims don't," I replied. "Legal knowledge, financial resources, connections. That's why I want to use this attention to help others." The next weeks brought a flood of correspondence. Families sharing similar stories. Elderly parents afraid of their children. Adult children suspicious of siblings' sudden interest in aging parents. I began working with advocacy groups, turning my painful experience into educational materials. A month later, we returned to court for sentencing. Jennifer had lost weight, her prison pallor stark under fluorescent lights. Fletcher stood beside her, his false bravado completely eroded. Judge Reeves addressed Fletcher first. His pattern of elderly abuse, the suspicious deaths, the interstate flight from prosecution all warranted the maximum sentence. 30 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. At 53, it was effectively a life sentence. When Jennifer's turn came, the courtroom held its breath. Judge Reeves looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "Ms. Calhoun, you held a position of ultimate trust, that of a daughter. You weaponized that trust for financial gain. You corrupted your teenage son, betrayed your father, and showed a callousness that shocks the conscience. While I acknowledge your gambling addiction is a factor, it doesn't excuse the calculated nature of your crimes." She paused, consulting her notes. "However, this court also notes your lack of prior criminal history and the testimony of your son who, despite everything, asked for mercy in his victim impact statement. Therefore, this court sentences you to 18 years in federal prison with the possibility of parole after 12 years, contingent on completion of gambling addiction treatment and restitution to victims." Jennifer's legs gave out. Court officers caught her as she sobbed, the weight of consequences finally breaking through her denial. As we left the courthouse for the final time, Adam walked between Marcus and me. The 16-year-old who'd bravely stood up to his mother was becoming a young man shaped by hard truths about human nature. "Grandpa," he said as we reached the car, "I want to study law, like you did, but I want to focus on protecting elderly people from this kind of thing." I stopped, touched beyond words. Margaret would have been proud of this boy who'd found purpose in pain. Then we'll make that happen, I promised. Your grandmother always said the best revenge against those who try to break you is to build something better from the pieces. As we drove home, I thought about the empty chair at our dinner table, the daughter-shaped hole in our family. Jennifer would serve her time, maybe find redemption, maybe not. That was her journey now. Ours was different. We'd faced betrayal and chosen truth. We'd encountered greed and responded with generosity. We'd been broken and decided to rebuild. The reckoning was complete. Now came the harder work of living beyond it. 1 year later, Thanksgiving arrived with unseasonable warmth. The kitchen buzzed with activity as 3 generations worked together in harmony that would have seemed impossible during the dark days of betrayal. Adam, now 17 and more confident, expertly carved the turkey while explaining his early admission to Georgetown's pre-law program. They were impressed by my essay about family justice and redemption, he said, glancing at me with gratitude. Apparently, living through a federal fraud case gives you perspective other applicants lack. Marcus laughed while mashing potatoes. That's one way to put it. He'd transformed over the past year, the passive husband replaced by an engaged father and surprisingly a trusted friend. His work with our legal aid organization had given him purpose beyond his accounting career. Thomas arrived with his family children racing through the house as they always had. Dorothy brought her famous pumpkin pie and stories from her volunteer work at the senior center where she now taught elderly people to recognize signs of financial exploitation. You'd be amazed how many have children or grandchildren pressuring them, she said, arranging flowers in Margaret's favorite vase. Your story gave them permission to say no. The doorbell rang just as we were sitting down. Adam jumped up to answer it, returning with an envelope. It's from the prison, he said quietly, handing it to me. From Mom. The room fell silent. We'd received letters before, angry and accusatory, which I'd filed away unread after the first few. But Adam's expression suggested this was different. Should I read it? I asked the table at large. Your choice, Dad, Thomas said. We support whatever you decide. I opened the envelope with careful fingers, extracting 2 pages of Jennifer's handwriting. As I read, my throat tightened. Would you read it aloud, Grandpa? Adam asked. I think I need to hear it. I cleared my throat and began. Dear Dad, I'm writing this after 243 days of therapy, 67 AA meetings, and countless hours staring at the ceiling of my cell, wondering how I became someone who would destroy her own father for money. The simple answer is gambling addiction. But that's not the whole truth. The truth is uglier and harder to write. I was envious. You and Mom lived modestly despite your wealth, driving old cars, clipping coupons while I wanted more. I felt entitled to what you'd earned. When Mom died and you gave me $200,000 instead of being grateful, I was angry it wasn't more. The gambling started as a way to multiply that gift into what I thought I deserved. Each loss made me more desperate, more willing to cross lines I never imagined I could cross. When I met James Fletcher, he showed me a way to get everything. All I had to do was erase my father's humanity and turn him into a problem to be solved. I became someone I don't recognize. Watching the surveillance videos during the trial, seeing myself plant evidence, lie to family, corrupt my own son. I wanted to scream that it wasn't me. But it was. Every cruel calculation, every staged incident, every lie I told while looking into your trusting eyes. Adam, my precious son, I'm sorry beyond words. I asked you to lie about the grandfather who loves you more than I apparently loved either of you. You showed more courage at 16 than I've shown in my entire life. I'm proud of you for standing up to me. Never lose that moral compass, no matter how much the world tries to spin you around. Dad, I don't ask for your forgiveness because I haven't earned it. Maybe I never will. But I want you to know that I'm finally facing who I became and working to find who I might yet be. The prison therapist says redemption is possible for anyone willing to do the work. I'm trying. I've started a recovery group here for inmates with gambling addiction. We meet twice a week. I tell them my story as a warning. How I had everything, a loving family, a good career, a beautiful son, and threw it all away for the empty promise of easy money. If my story keeps one person from destroying their family like I destroyed mine, maybe some good can come from this nightmare. I've also been working with the FBI providing information about the gambling syndicate that had its hooks in me. 3 major operations have been shut down. It doesn't undo my crimes, but it might prevent others from falling into the same trap. Marcus filed for divorce. I signed the papers without contest. He's been a better father to Adam this past year than I was a mother. Thank you for taking them both in. Thank you for loving my son when I became unlovable. I have 17 more years to serve 12 if I maintain good behavior and complete all required programs. I wake up every day in a 6x8 cell knowing I built this prison myself, bar by bar, with every choice I made. But I also wake up determined to be better than I was yesterday. Don't write back unless you truly want to. Don't visit unless it would help your healing. I forfeited my right to ask anything of you the day I decided your confusion was more valuable than your clarity. Just know that I remember now who you really are. My father, the man who taught me right from wrong even if I chose to forget those lessons. The man who played Tea Party with me at 5 and walked me down the aisle at 25. The man I tried to erase but who refused to disappear. I love you, Dad. I loved money more and that will be my shame forever, but I love you. Your daughter, Jennifer. The letter trembled in my hands as I finished reading. Adam wiped tears while Marcus stared at his plate. Dorothy reached over to squeeze my shoulder. Well, Thomas said finally, that sounded like the sister I used to know. People can change, Adam said quietly. Right, Grandpa. If they really want to... I folded the letter carefully. Yes, son. People can change. Your mother's taking the first steps. Whether she completes the journey, only time will tell. We returned to our meal, the mood shifted but not ruined. Talk turned to Adam's college plans, the legal aid organization's expansion, Dorothy's new gentleman friend from the senior center who'd be joining us for Christmas. As pie was served, I stood to offer the traditional toast, a role Margaret had always filled. This family has been through trials that would break most bonds. I began looking at each face around the table. We've faced betrayal, greed, and the kind of pain that comes from those we love most causing the deepest wounds. But look at us now, stronger, wiser, still together. I raised my glass of cider. To those, we've lost Margaret, who watches over us, and Jennifer, who lost her way. To those, we've found Marcus, who became the son I never had, and Adam, who carries our hopes forward. To justice served and mercy remembered. To family not perfect but persistent. To healing that comes not from forgetting but from choosing to build something better from the broken pieces. To family, everyone echoed glasses clinking. After dinner, Adam found me on the back porch watching the sunset. Are you going to write her back? He asked, settling into the chair beside me. I'm considering it. Do you want me to... He was quiet for a moment. I think so. Not to forgive her, not yet. But to let her know we're okay. That we survived what she did. Maybe knowing that will help her keep fighting to be better. You have your grandmother's wisdom, I told him, and her heart. I want to visit her, he said suddenly. Not now, but someday, when I'm ready. Would you come with me? If you want me there, I'll be there. We sat in comfortable silence watching the day end. Inside, laughter erupted from some story Thomas was telling. Life continuing, despite everything. My phone buzzed with a text from Walter. CNN wants to interview you about the Elder Fraud Protection Act. Interested? I showed it to Adam, who smiled. You should do it. Your story helps people. The Elder Fraud Protection Act, inspired by our case, had passed 6 months ago. Stronger penalties, better detection systems, mandatory reporting for financial advisors who suspected exploitation. It wasn't enough to stop all predators, but it was a start. Want to be interviewed with me? I asked. Your perspective matters too. Maybe. Can I think about it? Of course. As darkness fell, we headed inside to join the family. Marcus had started a board game with the younger kids. Dorothy regaled everyone with stories of her new beau's attempts at modern technology. Normal, peaceful, the kind of evening Jennifer had tried to steal from all of us. Later, after everyone had gone home or to bed, I sat in my study with paper and pen. The letter wrote itself. Jennifer, your letter arrived on Thanksgiving, which seems fitting. A day for gratitude even in the face of loss. Adam thrives. He'll start at Georgetown next fall, planning to study law with a focus on elder protection. Your betrayal lit a fire in him to protect others. Marcus has become the father you both needed. He manages our legal aid organization with passion I never expected. I won't lie and say your absence isn't felt. Every family gathering has an empty chair, but we've learned to build joy around that absence rather than let it poison everything. Your work with other inmates and the FBI noted. Redemption begins with acknowledgement of harm, continues with genuine effort to change, and requires consistent action over time. You've started the journey. Keep walking. I'm not ready to visit. Neither is Adam, though he speaks of doing so someday. That door isn't locked, merely closed until healing allows it to open. You asked for no response unless I truly wanted to send one. I'm writing because despite everything, you're still my daughter. The one who betrayed me, yes, but also the one who once made Father's Day cards with glitter glue and insisted on helping me practice closing arguments for big cases. Both versions exist. The daughter I loved and the woman who tried to destroy me. Learning to hold both truths has been my challenge this year. Continue your work. Face each day with the determination to be better than you were. Not for my forgiveness or anyone else's, but because choosing to be better is the only way forward from where you are. We survived what you did to us. Now survive what you did to yourself. Then maybe someday we can find our way back to being a family. Your father, Calhoun. I sealed the letter, addressed it to the Federal Correctional Facility, and placed it with the outgoing mail. Through my window, I could see Adam's light still on, probably reading case law for his senior thesis on elder protection. The future stretched ahead uncertain but no longer dark. We'd faced the worst betrayal imaginable and emerged not unscathed, but unbroken. Jennifer sat in a cell of her own making, but even she showed signs of finding her way back to humanity. Redemption, I'd learned, wasn't a destination, but a daily choice. To be better than we were. To build rather than tear down. To choose love over greed, truth over deception, family over fortune. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The legal aid organization had 3 new cases of elder fraud to investigate. Adam would need guidance on his college applications. Marcus was ready to date again and sought advice on introducing someone new to our unconventional family. Dorothy's gentleman friend would officially join our Christmas celebration, expanding our circle once more. But tonight, in this moment, I felt something I hadn't experienced since that awful Sunday when Walter called me away from dinner. Peace. Not the peace of ignorance I'd lost forever, but the peace of survival, of purpose found in pain, of a family that refused to let betrayal have the final word. The clock struck midnight. Thanksgiving was over, but gratitude remained. For truth revealed, justice served a grandson's courage, a family's resilience, and yes, even for a daughter's first steps toward redemption. The story that began with betrayal had become one of hope. The prosecutor who'd spent a lifetime seeking justice had found something rarer and more precious. Grace. Looking back at everything that had happened from that first shocking text from Walter to this quiet moment of reflection, I understood that sometimes the greatest inheritance we can leave isn't money or property, but the wisdom to know right from wrong, the courage to stand for truth, and the grace to forgive those who've lost their way. My phone buzzed one more time. Adam, Grandpa, you still up and thinking about Mom's letter? I want to write her too. Will you help me find the right words? I typed back. Of course, come to the study. We'll find them together. As his footsteps approached, I smiled. The cycle of pain had been broken. In its place, a new legacy grew, one built on truth, sustained by love, and strong enough to bridge even the deepest betrayals. The silent wolf had finished his hunt. Now the wise grandfather had work to do, guiding the next generation toward justice tempered with mercy, strength paired with compassion, and the understanding that even in our darkest moments, redemption remains possible for those brave enough to seek it. The story continues, but differently now. Better, hopeful. A family reborn from the ashes of betrayal, proving that sometimes the ending we fear most becomes the beginning we needed all along. Thank you for joining me on this journey of pain, truth, and ultimately redemption. If you've experienced elder fraud or know someone who has, please share your story in the comments below. Your experiences could help others recognize the warning signs and protect their loved ones. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories about families facing challenges and finding their way through. And please share this with anyone who might benefit from knowing that betrayal doesn't have to be the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a better chapter. May you and your loved ones always choose truth over deception, love over greed, and family over fortune. Until next time, hold your family close and remember that the greatest inheritance you can leave is the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to stand for truth.